Some people are going to be really high in certain intelligences and maybe not so high in others. And that's all just, it has to do with how God made us. And that's fine. Like there's not a right intelligence set to have.
Hey everyone, this is Yvette Hampton. Welcome back to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast. I am back today for day 3 with Tyler Hogan. We are having such a great conversation this week. This is part of our Homeschool Survival series, and we are talking about learning styles, learning modalities, as you learned in the last episode. If you missed the last 2 episodes on Monday and Wednesday, go back and listen to those because they're so important and give such a very important foundation for how our kids learn. And we really need to understand this. And I want to say before we dig a little bit deeper into this, don't let this become a stumbling block for you as you're teaching your kids. I know that it can be overwhelming. I know, trust me. 11 years, almost 12 years into homeschooling, and I still get overwhelmed sometimes by teaching my kids. Don't let this become a stumbling block. Just trust the Lord, pray, take the information that we're giving to you and just take baby steps with it. Just take in a little bit at a time, however you learn, whether you're auditory or visual. If you're auditory, then listen to this podcast maybe several times. If you're visual, and I think actually anybody, auditory, visual, or kinesthetic, get Tyler's book. It's called Demystifying Learning Styles, What Every Homeschool Parent Needs to Know. And we'll put links to that book in the show notes. But it's such a fantastic book, and it will really help you to dissect this idea of learning styles. It's not something that, I think I said this in a previous episode. I didn't ever grow up even really understanding that I had a learning style. Um, I just, I learned the things that I learned, and there were a lot of things I didn't learn because I wasn't taught according to the way that God created me to learn. And we have such an advantage in having our kids home with us to teach them according to the way that God created them to learn. So we're going to talk today. I want to talk about growth and goals. But before we get into our conversation with Tyler, I want to thank our sponsor, CTC Math. They are a fantastic math online program. So if you guys are looking for a good math program, go to ctcmath.com. You can try it for free. Just, just do a trial. Put it in front of your kids and just see if it's something that works well for them. I think you will be very happy with it. ctcmath.com. I want to jump into intelligence and what does it mean to be intelligent? Because as we think about education and we think about teaching our kids, we want our kids to be smart. We want them to be intelligent. We want them to go into their adult life as mature people who have some sort of knowledge and intelligence, especially with God's word, right? But what does that mean? What does it even mean to be intelligent? Does that mean you have a really high IQ? Does it mean that you're able to win every Jeopardy game and you can regurgitate all of the answers? What exactly does that mean?
Well, that's a really complex question, but for the purposes of trying to teach our kids, there's a couple things that we need to know about intelligence. One is that IQ is not really very helpful when it comes to teaching our kids. IQ measures, more than anything else, it measures how fast you think.
Hmm.
So it's your mental speed, your horsepower. So, and that's not necessarily something that is going to change. Your IQ isn't very fluid, um, but intelligence is so much more than IQ. Intelligence has to do with your ability to understand and solve problems in a lot of different areas. And you don't have to think fast in order to think well. So when we think about intelligence, there's more than one way to be smart because there are so many different kinds of problems that we're presented with. Some of the problems that we face in lives are, math and science questions.
Mhm.
Some of them are communication questions. Sometimes we have a musical problem or a problem with an animal or plants. Like all of those are different kinds of intelligences.
Yeah.
And there's a lovely theory of intelligence called Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence,
Huh.
and he outlines uh, 8 different intelligences. So he has linguistic intelligence, so being able to speak, read, and write and communicate clearly and solve problems through talking or writing is the linguistic intelligence. There's
Okay.
logical mathematical intelligence. And that has to do not just with doing math, but being able to solve problems in an orderly way, to use your critical thinking skills, and to follow a process to arrive at a conclusion. There's visual spatial intelligence. So if you've ever met somebody who is really good at packing and can just fit everything into a suitcase, or is really good at Tetris, like
Uh-huh.
that's visual spatial intelligence at work. And if you're ever trying to move furniture and you need to know which way to tilt the sofa in order to get it through the little door, visual spatial intelligence, being able to imagine spaces and rotate
Yeah.
objects in your brain, that's an important problem solving skill. The fourth one is bodily kinesthetic intelligence. So, athletes, dancers, anybody who uses fine motor skills needs to have some bodily kinesthetic intelligence to solve problems. Like, how do I do this task without injuring myself? How can I get this done faster? Or when does it need to be slower? Number 5 is musical intelligence. And, we don't typically think of musical problems, but if you're singing or playing an instrument or composing,
Mhm.
being able to find the right note, to resolve the chord, to adjust your volume, those are musical problems that you
Sure.
solve with musical intelligence. Uh, Number 6 is naturalist intelligence. So that has to do with like identifying plants and animals, being able to tell what foods are safe to eat or poisonous, predicting
Yeah.
weather, any of that outdoorsy survivalist kind of stuff is going to be under naturalist intelligence. And then the last two I think are really interesting. Number 7 is interpersonal intelligence. So your ability to read people and understand what they're thinking and feeling and modulate your behavior to match or help change their mood. And I mean, we think of that in terms of how can I be a good encourager or be
Mm.
empathetic? Like those people skills is
Yeah.
interpersonal intelligence. And then the last one is intrapersonal intelligence. And that has to do with knowing yourself, knowing, why do I feel this way?
Mhm.
Is this feeling helpful? Is this feeling telling me the truth? Should I listen to it or should I do something different? What's the problem behind the problem?
Yeah.
Being able to journal and articulate your inner thoughts and feelings well is an intra-personal kind of problem set and skill set. So we can be smart in all of these different ways,
Wow.
and everybody has intelligence in different measures and in different combinations. Some people are going to be really high in certain intelligences and maybe not so high in others. And that's all just, it has to do with how God made us. And that's fine. Like there's not a right intelligence set to have.
Yeah. Wow, that is so cool. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
What we do at IEW is break through the noise of the grammar and the writing prompts, and we say, this is what you do, step by step. And I've witnessed it over and over again, both watching Andrew teach and hearing from parents, this is the best writing program. We've made it so easy and made it really affordable. So any mom can teach writing to their children using our course, and we guarantee it.
To try 3 weeks of free lessons, visit IEW.com. We are back with Tyler. We have a few minutes left of this conversation, and I want to. Well, first, I want to say on what you were talking about. You're talking about Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and that's so fascinating. I've never ever thought of it that way, and I love the idea of thinking about intelligence because as a society, we have this idea that if you are a doctor or a lawyer, you're really intelligent, right?
Mhm.
If you are a plumber, maybe you're not as intelligent. And that's absolutely not true. Really, what it comes down to is a
Mhm.
doctor or a lawyer might make more money than the plumber or even an auto mechanic. But the auto mechanic and the plumber are just as intelligent, just in a different way. And it's so
Right.
cool because that's how God created mankind to work together. We need each other. We need the plumber. We need the mechanic. We need the doctor. We need the lawyer. We need the baker. We need the chef. We need everybody to work together for the the betterment of mankind, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's so cool to see how God has given each one of us a different gift, a different ability, a different way of intelligence so that we can make the world a better place. And more importantly, so that we can serve Him in different ways. You think about missionaries, and there are some missionaries who are doctors and nurses, and they go out into the mission field and they take care of the medical needs of people. And then you've got some who are the pilots who go out and they fly the people to the mission field who need to be there. And then you've got those who are on the ground who are feeding the people and loving on them because they have that interpersonal relationship with them.
Mhm.
And they all have to
And
work
others who are
together.
translating the Bible with their
That's right.
linguistic intelligence or leading
Absolutely.
worship with their musical intelligence. And
Absolutely. It's so
there's
cool.
a place for all of them. And it doesn't matter
Amen.
what color your collar is.
Right.
All of your work, all of your problem solving, all of your intelligences have worth and dignity.
Amen. Yeah, that's so, so very cool. So, okay, let me ask you this question. Is it possible to I know that we grow as humans and we learn more things as we get older, and some things actually we forget as we get older. And I think as our memory starts to fail us,
Mhm.
as we do age, is it possible to grow our intelligence? And if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely, it is. So when we think about, oh, this person's really good at this, um, oftentimes what we're seeing isn't the ceiling of their ability. We're seeing their natural talent, and that we can think of as the floor. So some of us have a higher starting place in certain intelligences than others, but it doesn't matter what your starting place is. Hard work, diligent practice, having a good teacher, all of those things mean that you can grow your intelligence
Mhm.
well past your starting place, whether your starting place is high or low. And really, the truth of the matter is that skill, which isn't what we start with, it's what we gain along the way through hard work and through persistence and being willing to learn. Um, our whole ability is made up of our talent, which is our starting place, and our skill, which is everything we've added to that. So your skill is something that you can continue to grow in every aspect of your intelligence. And sometimes it works and grows fast. Sometimes it's slow and plodding, but the point is it can grow. And one of the things that as parents we need to do with our kids is teach them that you can learn this. Because so often we get stuck in that mindset that says, I can't learn this. I'm
Right.
never going to get better at this. And so we don't put any effort in and we don't get any better. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mhm.
But teaching our kids, no, you can. You haven't learned this yet.
Yeah.
And that yet is such a potent word. You haven't learned it yet, but you can, and I'll help you get there. That's so crucial to helping our kids actually grow all of these different intelligences.
Yeah. And one of the ways to help them get there is then to go back to understanding what our child's learning style is, their learning modalities, setting up
Mhm.
their environment for them, right? To be able to learn the way that God created them to learn. And also helping them to learn in other ways that maybe are not their strength, because that's an advantage as well.
Yeah,
But again, we have so many opportunities to do that with our kids when we have them home with us. When your kids are away from you at school, 5 days a week for 7 or 8 hours a day, you're not able to do that. You can set up some environments at home when they're doing homework, but it's a completely different thing than when they're in school all day being taught by someone else who's not
right.
catering to their individual learning styles. And so we have such an advantage and a privilege, not just an advantage, but we have the privilege of teaching our kids at home the way that God created them to learn. And
Yeah, and it has so many levels to it because it's not just the material that you're teaching, but
right,
you're also teaching and modeling how do we even approach learning. And
right.
that can come through in something as subtle as, what kind of compliments do I give my kids? Do I tell
Uh-huh.
them, "Oh, you're so smart, you're so good at that"? Or do I focus on the things that I really want to encourage, which
Mhm.
is the hard work and the persistence? Oh,
Yeah.
wow, you worked really hard at this. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, you made great progress here. You've improved so much. Like that's a subtle little language shift, but
Yes.
it means so much to kids
Yeah.
who see, oh, wow, my my hard work is being valued more than just my natural skill.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Such great stuff. Well, we could go on and on. I feel like we could talk for days and days about all of these things. It's so important and it's so exciting to talk about these. But we just don't have the time. So here's what you need to do. Get Tyler's book. It's called Demystifying Learning Styles, What Every Homeschool Parent Needs to Know. And this really will help you to understand your kids and to understand yourself. I think it's one of the greatest privileges we have of learning how we learn, learning who we are and how God created us uniquely as people as well. It's not just about our kids, but my eyes have been so opened in my adult years to understand like, oh, that's why I didn't understand that, or that's why I, have this quirky little thing, whatever, because I've learned, yeah, I'm still learning to understand how God made me. And so it's such an exciting thing. God is fun. I'm so glad he didn't make every one of us to be exactly like our neighbor and like our sister and brother. We are all
Hmm.
different. And um, so thank you, Tyler, for your time this week. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a joy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging with us. I know it's been a fun and encouraging week. I hope that you've been encouraged. If you have, and if you are encouraged by the ministry of Schoolhouse Rocked, would you consider helping to support this ministry financially? We want to keep doing what we're doing. This is what God's called us to, and we love what we do. We love being able to bring encouragement to you and resources. And so in order to do that, there's a cost involved. And so if you would consider supporting us financially, go to schoolhouserocked.com. Everything you need to know about Schoolhouse Rocked is on there. The movie, the podcast, the blog, which we don't blog too much anymore, but everything Schoolhouse Rocked is on there. And there's also a donation button on there as well. So if you would consider that, we would love it. Thank you for sticking with us this week. Have a great rest of your day, and we will be back with you on Monday with another fantastic guest. Bye.
In the very beginning, I had several friends that wanted me to homeschool. And frankly, they were a reason why I didn't want to homeschool, because it looked too perfect to me. Like, I would look at families on the covers of magazines and they had matching jumpers and they were all playing an instrument. And I was thinking, I can't relate to that, right? They're growing their own wheat and grinding it into flour. And I thought, that's not me. Like, I'm going to the store and, getting Wonder Bread for my kids and trying to figure out how to use my crock pot, right? And I realized very quickly that the best thing about homeschooling wasn't the fact that we had it all together. It was the fact that we were learning to live together, the fact that we were learning to grow together and learn together. And we learned through our mistakes. I want my kids to know two things when they leave my house. I want them to know that I loved them. That's the first thing I want. I don't want them to look back on their years at home and wonder if I love them. I want them to know that I love them. The second thing is that I want them to know that I trusted the Lord, that I trusted God for every decision that I made. And when I make a wrong decision, which we do as parents, and when the day goes bad, and when we burn the dinner, and when we stub our toe, and when our kids push us to the end of what we think we can do, and we say the word that we never thought we'd hear come out of our mouth, or we make a wrong decision, we have an opportunity to go back and make it right.